Chapter 3. When Morning Asks for Courage. Bloom after winter. Dawn of February 26th finds Ivan hunched over his laptop in the shelter, his eyes burning from lack of sleep. He spent the night helping his development team relocate their servers, ensuring critical systems stay online. Beside him, Nadya is coordinating with her network of travel bloggers who have transformed their Instagram accounts into information channels for evacuation routes and humanitarian aid. "Look at this," she says, turning her phone toward him. A local Telegram channel is filling with messages. Elderly people trapped in high-rise buildings without electricity, families seeking transportation west, diabetics running low on insulin. The messages blur together in an overwhelming stream of need. Ivan rubs his eyes. "We can't help everyone." "No," Nadya agrees, "but we can help someone." Their opportunity comes that afternoon. A message appears from an elderly couple in Obolon, the northern district of Kiev. Their grandson is fighting with the territorial defense forces, and they're running out of medication. Without discussing it, Ivan and Nadya know what they have to do. The streets of Kiev have become a maze of checkpoints and barricades. Ivan's old Skoda weaves between concrete blocks and anti-tank hedgehogs, the metal crosses casting cruciform shadows in the winter sun. Every few hundred meters, they're stopped by territorial defense volunteers, their yellow armbands bright against their civilian clothes. Each time, Nadya shows them the digital permits on her phone, her press credentials proving unexpectedly useful in this new reality. "Remember when we used to complain about traffic?" Ivan attempts humor as they wait at yet another checkpoint. Nadya's laugh catches in her throat as an explosion echoes from somewhere in the city. The elderly couple lives on the 12th floor. With the elevator out of service, Ivan and Nadya climb the stairs in darkness, their phone flashlights creating dancing shadows on the walls. They find Katerina and Mikhailo Petrenko sitting in their kitchen, a chessboard between them, a battery-powered radio quietly broadcasting updates. "Like during the Great Patriotic War," Mikhailo says as they pack essential medicines into a bag. "Except back then, I was the young one running up these stairs to help my own grandparents." His hands, marked with age spots, carefully fold a photograph of a young man in uniform, their grandson Andrei, and tuck it into his pocket. Katerina insists on feeding them before they leave. Despite Ivan's protests about hurrying back before curfew, she heats up homemade borscht on their camping stove. "Children who help others must eat," she declares in a tone that brooks no argument. As they eat, she tells them stories of the Orange Revolution, of standing in the winter cold on Maidan Nezalezhnosti in 2004, fighting for democracy in her own way. "You see this plant?" She points to a peace lily on their windowsill. "It bloomed the day Viktor Yushchenko was inaugurated, and now it's blooming again." Her eyes are fierce with hope. Ukraine always blooms after the winter. Memories of Orange. "Tell me about 2004 again," Nadya asks Katerina, as they sit in the shelter during another air raid warning. The elderly woman's eyes light up, her hands instinctively smoothing her cardigan as she settles into her storytelling pose. Ivan, recognizing the beginning of an important moment, opens his laptop to record these memories. He himself was 17 during the Orange Revolution, old enough to remember, but young enough that many details had seemed unclear at the time. "It began in November," Katerina starts, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality. "The presidential election, Viktor Yanukovych against Viktor Yushchenko. We all knew something was wrong when they announced Yanukovych had won. Yushchenko had been poisoned months before, his face disfigured, but still he fought. And we all knew, the election had been stolen." Ivan remembers that time, Yushchenko's transformed face on every television screen, the dioxin poisoning that had nearly killed him. He had been a teenager, watching his parents discuss politics in fierce whispers in their kitchen. "I was only 11, Nadya interjects softly. "I remember my mother dressing me in orange ribbons, but I didn't understand why." Katerina nods. "Orange became our color of hope. On November 22nd it started. People began gathering on Maidan Nezalezhnosti. Not hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of thousands. The square became a sea of orange." Her eyes grow distant with memory. "The cold was bitter that winter, but we stood together, shoulder to shoulder. Students, workers, professionals, pensioners, all of us united. We set up tents, organized kitchens, created our own city within the city. Musicians played on makeshift stages. Strangers shared food, blankets, and stories. Ivan's fingers fly across his keyboard, preserving every detail. He remembers sneaking out of his house with his older brother to join the protests, their parents pretending not to notice their absence. The most remarkable thing, Katerina continues, was the spirit of it all. No violence, no chaos. When police would approach, protesters would offer them hot tea and sandwiches. We sang folk songs, told jokes, created art. It was a revolution of dignity, of culture. She reaches into her bag and pulls out an old orange ribbon, faded but carefully preserved. 17 days we stood there, through snow, through cold, through threats. The Supreme Court finally invalidated the fraudulent election results. We had won through peaceful resistance. I remember the revote, Ivan says. December 26th. My father came home with tears in his eyes after voting, saying it was the first time his vote had truly mattered. Nadya nods. My grandmother said it was the first time since independence that she felt truly Ukrainian. Not Soviet, not post-Soviet, but Ukrainian. Yushchenko won with 52% of the vote, Katerina continues, but the numbers don't tell the real story. The real victory was in showing the world and ourselves what Ukrainian people could achieve when united. We proved that civil resistance could overcome corruption, that the voice of the people could be stronger than the schemes of politicians. An explosion sounds in the distance, bringing them sharply back to the present. Yet the parallel isn't lost on any of them. Once again, Ukrainians are standing together against an attempt to deny their sovereignty. The Orange Revolution taught us something crucial, Katerina says, carefully tucking the ribbon away. It taught us that change is possible when people refuse to accept injustice. It showed us our own strength. But it wasn't the end, Ivan adds quietly. Yanukovych eventually became president anyway, in 2010. No, Katerina agrees, her voice firm, but it prepared us for Maidan in 2013, for the revolution of dignity. And now, she gestures to the shelter around them, where volunteers coordinate aid efforts and plan evacuation routes. It prepared us for this moment. Each time we grow stronger. Each time we learn more about who we are. Nadya reaches for the orange ribbon, running it through her fingers. May I? She asks, and when Katerina nods, she ties it to her volunteer coordinator badge. To remember, she says simply. In the dim light of the shelter, as another explosion rattles the windows above, the faded orange ribbon serves as a reminder that resistance has many forms, that unity is a powerful weapon, and that the Ukrainian people have faced dark times before and emerged stronger. Ivan saves his document and titles it Memories of Orange, knowing that someday these stories will need to be told again, not just as history, but as proof that the spirit of Ukrainian resistance has deep roots, nourished by decades of standing up for freedom. Dignity of Maidan. On their way back to the shelter, they make 2 more stops, delivering medications to other elderly residents. At each apartment, they find the same spirit, unbreakable resolve wrapped in ordinary moments of human kindness. One woman gives them a jar of preserved tomatoes. Another insists on sharing her precious supply of coffee. It's nearly dusk when they hear the distant rattling of gunfire. Ivan pulls the car into the shadow of a building, and they wait, hearts pounding. In the silence that follows, Nadya reaches for his hand. We need to do more, she says quietly. We need to organize this better. That evening, in the shelter, they create a makeshift volunteer center. Ivan sets up a database to track needs and resources, his coding skills finding a new purpose. Nadya starts a digital map marking safe routes and dangerous areas, updating it with information from her journalist contacts. Their phones buzz constantly with messages from others wanting to help. A young IT specialist offers to create a chatbot for coordinating aid requests. A retired bus driver volunteers his vehicle for evacuations. A pharmacy student begins cataloging medical needs. The basement shelter transforms into a hive of purposeful activity. You know what this reminds me of? Nadya says late that night, as they input data into their newly created system. The winter of 2013, Maidan, how everyone came together, finding their own ways to help. Ivan nods, remembering those days of the Revolution of Dignity. He had been there, playing guitar for the protesters, while Nadya had helped in the field kitchen. History repeats itself, he says, but this time we're better prepared. An air raid siren wails outside, and new people hurry into the shelter. Among them is a woman cradling a cat carrier. From Hostomel, she explains, her voice shaking. The Russians, they're getting closer. Ivan and Nadya exchange glances. They know their voluntary missions will become more dangerous as the front lines draw nearer, but they also know they can't stop now. In helping others, they've found their own way of fighting back, of defending their beloved Kyiv. As the night deepens and the sounds of war draw closer, they continue their work. Their laptops cast blue light on their faces as they plan tomorrow's aid deliveries, coordinate with other volunteer groups, and map escape routes. Around them, people sleep on mats and folding chairs, while others keep watch near the entrance. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new needs, new dangers. But tonight, in this underground shelter-turned-volunteer center, they've discovered something powerful. That even in the darkest times, human beings can create light through simple acts of courage and kindness. And sometimes, that light is enough to help guide others through the darkness.